choose what happened to me, but I did choose some of what happened next. And if I'm going to tell the truth about survival, I have to own both. Because some of us have gotten really, really good at explaining ourselves. We can tell you what happened, who left, what we lost, who hurt us, whose fault it is, what we never got, what we got stolen, what our parents did to us, what the church did to us, what trauma did to us, what addiction has done to us. And every word of it might be true. But sometimes the truth about what happened to us becomes the hiding place we use to avoid the truth about what we did next. And I know that because I've done it. This morning, a guy got into my truck. We were on a Lyft ride, and somewhere between where I picked him up and where I dropped him off, we moved past the weather, the traffic on I-4, and all the other crap people say when they're trying not to say anything real at all. And he shared pieces of his story. Foster care at a young age, mental health struggles from addiction, joining the military as a means of escape. Once he retired, got a nursing degree, a career spent helping other people. And I'm not going to tell his entire story because that belonged to him. But what I will tell you, what happened inside me while I was listening, I realized that there were two of us sitting in the car whose lives could have gone very different. Two men that had been shaped by things we didn't necessarily ask for. Two men who struggled with mental health, addiction, identity, and the weight of surviving the things that changed us. Two men who had made choices that we're not always proud of. And somehow, both of us ended up in professions built around helping other people who are struggling too. Not because we are untouched, not because we got everything right, not even close. Not because everything that happened suddenly seems to make sense now. Most of it still doesn't. But we're just still here, still trying, still learning, still trying to become men our history did not necessarily predict. And I've been carrying one question ever since. How much of who we become is nature? How much of who we become is nurture? How much is choice? And what do we do when all three of those have left their fingerprints all over our life? Because people love one clean explanation. Your genetics did it. Your childhood did it. It must be your trauma that did it. Oh, it's your addiction. That's what happened. It's probably your family. Mommy issues, daddy issues. Or this one, the devil did it. You need to pray through. You did it. Pick one. It doesn't really matter. But human beings are not that simple. What happened to us matters. What was modeled for us certainly matters. What we choose still matters. And none of those truths cancels the possibility of us becoming different. See, before any of us had a voice, we were handed this body, this brain, these vulnerabilities, these temperaments, this digestive system, what we respond to, our family history, certain strengths, vulnerabilities, things that we're good at, things that we're horrible at. Some people enter the world able, though, to settle easy. They can just get along and they're comfortable. But some of us came in feeling everything. We noticed every shift in the room, every change in somebody's tone, every shift in how their facial expression was, every sign that safety might be disappearing. Some of us were born with a greater vulnerability to anxiety, depression, impulsivity, addiction, emotional intensity. All those things we did not choose. I didn't choose my biology. I didn't choose every vulnerability that has traveled through my my bloodline. I did not choose to be given up for adoption or being adopted. I did not choose being kicked out at the age of 18 because my girlfriend was pregnant. I did not choose the losses, the ruptures, the unanswered questions that shaped me before I had language for any of it. I did not choose needing to learn what home meant while eventually calling 54 different places home. That shit leaves fingerprints, man. It teaches your body not to settle deeply. It teaches you that belonging might only be temporary. It teaches you how to read the room before you know how to read yourself. See, biology matters. History matters. But vulnerability is not some prophetic statement. It may explain why something grabbed me harder, stayed longer, or became more difficult to escape. That can be true. But it does not get the final word. Then there's nurture. What happened around us? What was done to us? What was withheld from us? What we saw? What we heard? What we survived? What we experienced? What we were taught to call normal? See, a child does not sit down and analyze whether the family system is healthy. What does a kid do? They adapt. If love is inconsistent, the child learns to chase love. If anger controls the room, then the child learns how to monitor everybody. If emotions get punished, what's the child going to do? Hide the emotion. If perfectionism earns approval, what's the child going to learn? How to perform. If silence protects this family's image, the child is going to learn, I don't speak. If God is presented as somebody waiting to punish you, fear can start sounding like faith. And if chaos is familiar, might peace feel suspicious? That's nurture. Family, religion, culture, poverty, wealth, stable, unstable, loving, abusive, cared for, neglected, provided for, or losses. Those roles that we were assigned, the secrets that we were expected to protect, the version of ourselves we had to become to remain connected to the people that we needed. See, I grew up around church. I knew how to show up. I knew how to serve. I knew the language. I knew how to look faithful while carrying shit I did not know how to name. Now, let me be clear. Faith did not ruin me. But there were places where performance got confused with holiness, silence got confused with obedience, and surviving got dressed up to look like a strength. See, you can learn how to say, God is good, while quietly believing something must be wrong with you. You can know how to pray for everybody else and still have no idea how to even ask for help. You can be surrounded by people and still feel emotionally homeless. Sometimes survival becomes our entire personality, and that's okay. You become the funny guy. You become the strong person. You become the caretaker. You become the peacemaker. You become the rebel. The one who needs nothing. Self-sufficient. The one who can handle anything. The one who leaves before anybody else gets a chance to leave. See, those roles may save us when we're young. But what protects a child can imprison us as adults, right? Hypervigilance may help us recognize that danger is approaching. Then one day, we can't even relax around the people who actually love us. Anger may have helped me feel powerful when I felt powerless, but then one day I realized I'm frightening the people that are closest to me. Walking away, disconnecting may help me survive the pain of this moment. And then one day I can't remain emotionally present long enough when this relationship gets difficult. Alcohol may quiet what feels unbearable. And one day, that relief becomes another source of my pain. See, the survival response was not stupid. It worked until it didn't. And this is where the message may get uncomfortable. So stick with me. I'm talking about choice. Because explanation cannot become exemption. Now, I'm not talking about blaming a child for adapting. I'm not talking about blaming your younger self for getting through it. I'm not talking about telling somebody who is still in danger to make better choices while they're trying to just stay alive. There's no magical birthday when everybody suddenly has this equal power, equal awareness, equal money, support, and equal options. Some people are trying to heal while they're still living inside the thing that is destroying them. That matters. But there comes a moment when we begin to recognize that what once protected us is now hurting us, hurting other people, or both. And once I can see that pattern, it becomes my responsibility to decide what I'm going to do with what I see. That's not shame. That's responsibility. Those aren't the same thing. See, shame says, this is what you are. Responsibility says, this is what happened. This is what you did. What are you going to do now? See, I can explain my drinking. I can tell you about the biology. I can tell you about the history, the loss. I can tell you when I started. I can tell you how it affected my mental health. I can tell you about the loneliness, the things I was trying not to feel. I can make the explanation clinically accurate, emotionally compelling, and spiritually profound, and I can still be full of shit if I use that explanation to avoid what my drinking did to other people. That is the raw truth. My pain did not make the pain I caused disappear. My trauma did not apologize to the people I hurt. My addiction did not rebuild the trust that I broke. Sure, alcohol may explain why I became unreliable, dishonest, unavailable, and destructive, but alcohol didn't make the amends. I had to do that. Alcohol did not sit through the rejection. I had to do that. Alcohol did not prove day in and day out that something had changed. I had to do that. I spent 65 days in treatment the last time. 65 days. And 7 hours after I left, I had bought beer. 7 hours. Do you understand how humbling that is? To have people invest time, money, hope, prayer, and love into my survival and then watch me walk right back toward the thing that was killing me? To know better and still not do better? To hear yourself making promises you definitely want to mean while everybody around you has already learned that wanting to change is not the same as changing. There were people who still spoke to me. There were people who did not. And the ugly truth is that part of me wanted credit simply because I was trying. I wanted those people I hurt to see my intentions while they're still living with the consequences of what I put them through. Sure, I wanted them to trust that this version of me I could see coming before I had constantly became him. That is not how trust works. Getting sober stopped me from creating the same damage in the same way, but it does not erase what was already there. See, sobriety is not a receipt I could hand somebody and say, see, now you owe me forgiveness. Sure, some people forgave me. Sure. Some people didn't. Some people may love me and still decide that distance is safer. And no is still a complete sentence. And even when I finally became ready to hear the yes, that is a part of recovery too. Not just choosing sobriety, choosing to stop controlling how everybody else has to respond to it. There are things I did because I was simply surviving. There are things I did because I was sick. There are also things I did because, yes, I was selfish. There were times I was wounded deeply, but there were times that I also wounded other people deeply. Both are true. I don't have to humiliate myself to admit that, though, and I don't get to hide behind my history to avoid it. Compassion without accountability simply becomes permission. Accountability without compassion only becomes punishment. Real change requires both. Eventually, I had to look at the cost. It cost me relationships. It cost me trust. It cost me time that I will never get back. It cost me parts of my health. It cost me peace. It cost me opportunities. Pieces of myself. And I kept calling it relief. But relief keeps collecting interest that eventually becomes a debt. And I had been borrowing against my own future for years. Repeated choices become patterns. Patterns become consequences. They say that the old saying, practice makes perfect. Why don't you look at it a little different, reframe that? Is it possible that practice makes permanent? So if we had our old patterns and we need to create new ones, we need to create better patterns that we can practice so that those better patterns become the permanent ones, not the ones that are destructive. Consequences eventually become a life, and at some point, survival stops being enough. I did not want to keep barely making it through the problems I was creating. I did not want to keep asking the people to believe more promises that my behavior was constantly contradicting. I did not want to spend the rest of my life being able to explain exactly why I was drowning and still refusing to swim. I needed a different way to live. And no, it did not happen through one prayer, one therapy session, one trip to treatment, one apology, or some emotional breakthrough. No, it came through recovery, therapy, faith, AA, NA, medical care, education, staying in school, taking the pills when I'm supposed to, having the hard conversations with the therapist or family members, making appointments that I used to avoid because I don't want them to see how I really am, sitting with the feelings I used to drink over, learning to pause before reacting, learning to tell the truth before the consequences told it for me, learning that being challenged is not the same as being rejected. Learning that peace can be unfamiliar without being dangerous. Learning that I could be accountable without believing I was worthless. And learning that consistency says what apologies cannot. 5 years sober does not mean I conquered everything. Becoming a therapist does not erase the people I hurt. Degrees do not prove that somebody else got healed. Helping other people does not make my past somehow now noble. And I refuse to turn every wound into a blessing just because I got past it. Some shit was painful. Some shit was wrong. Some losses did not need to happen. I caused them. Some of us should have protected other people and we didn't. Redemption does not require me to lie about the rubble I created. It asks me what I'm going to do, what I'm going to build from it. See, that is the turn. The other side is not a place where nothing hurts anymore. It's not a finish line. This isn't a victory lap. It's not a life without triggers, grief, regret, fear, or those old patterns constantly knocking at the door like they still live here. No, the other side is waking up and recognizing that my history is still part of me, but it's no longer running everything. I'm not untouched. I'm not unscarred. But I'm also not finished. I'm also not hopeless. And I am no longer willing to surrender my future to my history. Neither was that man sitting in my Jeep today, or my Bronco today. I don't know his entire story. It's not mine to ask that. One conversation doesn't give me the right to reduce everything that he shared with me to some inspirational moment for, my content. But I heard enough to recognize another human being who'd been handed reasons enough to quit. And he didn't. He kept learning. He served. He earned degrees. He entered a profession built around caring for other people. And there we were. A nurse and a therapist. Sitting in my Bronco. Talking about lives that could have become our endings. That doesn't mean the pain automatically creates purpose. No. Survivors do not owe the world a profession, a testimony, a platform, or some success story. No. You don't have to make your trauma impressive to prove that your life matters. No. Sometimes making survival useful means raising your children different than you were raised. Sometimes it means ending a pattern your family has passed down for generations. Sometimes it means telling the truth. Setting that boundary. Making the appointment. Taking the medication. Going back to school. Leaving that relationship. Repairing that relationship. Resting without apologizing for being lazy. Letting somebody help you. Sometimes making survival useful simply means refusing to let what happened to you keep happening through you. And I need you to hear me here. You can grieve the child you were and still confront the adult that you became. I can name what they did to me, and I can still own what I did to somebody else. You can understand your nervous system and still teach it something new. You can forgive people and still keep a boundary. You can love your family, but end the pattern. You can believe in God and question what people taught you about him. You can be grateful you survived and still be angry that you had to. You can carry those scars without making them your entire identity. Both can be true. Say it again, both can be true. Maybe you did not get the childhood you deserved. Maybe nobody came when you needed them. Maybe the people who taught you about love also taught you to fear it. Maybe you became hard because soft was never safe. Maybe you found something that quieted the noise, and by the time you realized what it was costing you, you did not know how to stop it. Maybe you hurt people. Maybe you burned trust down, and now you're standing in the ashes asking why nobody wants to move back in yet. I'm not here to condemn you. I'm simply telling you the door is still open. But you're going to have to walk through it. Nobody can do your recovery for you. Nobody can make your amends for you. Nobody can set your boundaries for you. Nobody can keep your appointments but you. Nobody can build a new life using only your intentions. At some point, you have to stop asking only, why am I like this? And start asking, what am I going to do with what I know now? Because if everything is only your fault, there's no compassion. But if everything is always somebody else's fault, there's no power. Healing gives you back the power to choose. Not perfectly, not all at once, but different. One decision, one boundary, one appointment, one honest conversation, one day at a time. Maybe the goal was never to become somebody untouched by what has happened. Maybe the goal is to become somebody who understands what happened, owns what they did with it, and decides what happens next. Nature may influence you. Nurture may shape you. Your choices may carry consequences. But none of them alone has to become your entire identity. I still have scars. I still have things I'm learning. I still have shit I wish I had done differently. There are still parts of my story I cannot rewrite. People I cannot make respond differently. Time I cannot recover. But I'm still here. I'm still growing. Still trying to become a better man. Still trying to help somebody else believe that their life is not over simply because it did not begin the way it should have. You are more than what happened to you. And you are responsible for what you do next. Both are true. That is not condemnation. That's possibility. You don't have to waste what hurt you. Learn from it. Grow beyond it. Protect somebody else from it. Build something different because of it. You can't change what nature handed you. We don't have that option. You cannot undo what your environment taught you. You cannot erase every choice you've made while trying to survive. But you can decide that survival will not be the end of this story. You made it through. Now make it mean something. Not for applause, not for a victory lap, not to prove the pain was worth it, not so somebody can tell you that you're inspiring. Make it mean something because you are still here. Because somebody behind you needs to know that that pattern can end. Because the people you love deserve more than just your explanation. Because the child you were deserved protection. And the person you are becoming deserves a future. Do not worship the wound, but do not deny the wound. Do not hand the wound the microphone and let it preach the rest of your life. Take the microphone back. Tell the truth. Own your choices. Accept the consequences. Make the repair where repair is allowed. And where repair is not allowed, respect the boundary and keep becoming different anyway. You are still here. The story is not finished. Don't put a period where a semicolon should be. Make survival useful. Presence before progress.